Hello, my name is Padma. I spent my childhood just outside Delhi in a small Indian village where people believe in omens and superstitions. Please like and subscribe to the channel. I was born on a Monday, the night of the cursed moon, which was considered extremely bad luck in my village, not only for my family but for the whole neighborhood. People avoided me, fearing that meeting me would bring misfortune to their homes. My mom used to hang garlic and chili peppers around my bed to ward off evil spirits, and all close relatives, including my dad, were afraid to look me in the eye. But the most difficult relationship I had was with my older brother Rajan. Even in our early childhood, he tried to convince our parents to get rid of me, take me deep into the jungle and sacrifice me to the sacred Indian cobras. But my parents still loved me, although they hid their feelings from everyone, including me. As a child, I never lost hope of making a connection with my brother. Once I made his favorite sweet cakes with my own hands and set the table in the yard to express my sisterly love. When Rajan came home from school, instead of thanking me and tasting it, he dumped the food on the ground and started tramping it down and yelling loudly. So loudly that the whole village came running. This wicked, damned girl decided to poison me. Oh gods, I won't fall into the trap of evil spirits. Rajan called to the heavens. The villagers started throwing stones at me, and if my parents didn't show up on time, this story would have ended very badly for me. I made no further attempts to befriend Rajan. Mom and Dad had a serious talk with him and forbade him to offend me. We avoided each other and didn't speak for many years. So the days went by and I became an outcast in my village. But I didn't suffer a bit from it. I enjoyed studying plants and spent a lot of time in the jungle. Once during a walk, I saw a man lying on the ground. He fell into a trap and was dying. A huge snake was wrapped around his body and was trying to strangle him. I called my dad, who along with other men from the village managed to free the stranger from the snake trap. When he came to his senses, he said, "Little girl, you saved me. You're my guardian angel." I heard such kind words addressed to me for the first time in my life. The stranger's name was Vikram, and he was a scientist, a specialist in agricultural crops. Vikram came from Delhi for a brief visit, and scientific interest brought him to the jungle. At parting, he gave me his book on plant growing in the Indian climate, and said that he would never forget his miraculous rescue. This incident made him reconsider his life and spend more time with his beloved wife. The warmth with which this visitor treated me didn't affect how the villagers felt about me. But I didn't know that then, and one day everything would change, for the worse. A terrible drought came to our village. People prayed to their gods from early morning until late evening. It seemed strange to me. In a regular school textbook I read that there were very special irrigation systems that could solve the problem. My parents didn't listen to me and thought I was talking nonsense. On the day of the special ceremony, when the whole village called for rain while praying together, I stayed at home so as not to annoy anyone with my presence. Suddenly, Rajan ran into my room and spoke to me for the first time in a long while. "Padma, sister, there's no time to explain or go into details. Parents are calling you urgently. They're at the ceremony now. Hurry up, they need your help. It's a matter of life or death." At first, Rajan's behavior and requests seemed strange to me. My parents strictly told me to stay at home today. But what if they really did need my help? Or maybe the villagers got interested in the irrigation system that I told my dad and mom about. Moreover, my brother didn't usually talk to me, which meant that this was some kind of exceptional case. Wasting no time, I ran to the sacred place where people usually gathered and prayed. My appearance at such a sacred moment, contrary to the hopes my brother gave me, had a crazy effect. Yes, one that I couldn't imagine in my worst nightmares. With every cell of my body, I felt hatred, even before I heard angry cries in my address. How dare this accursed creature walk on sacred ground? It's her fault that the gods turned away from us and the drought began. If my parents didn't get me out of there quickly, that day could have been the last day of my life. But the angry crowd became so mad that they came to our house. The screams demanding to hand me over went on all night. It became the most terrible night of my life and the happiest one of Rajan's life. He rubbed his hands with satisfaction and told our parents that the people's demands were just, and in order to avoid a hungry year, they must cooperate. Then the gods would have mercy, and finally it will rain. I was very hurt, not even because people wanted me dead, but because my brother hated me. Early in the morning, we heard a loud knock on the door. My parents were afraid to open it, but I heard Vikram's voice behind the door, the scientist I once saved. He learned from his relatives about the tragedy that happened to me and decided to take me to the city. Padma, I owe you my life, and now my sacred duty is to protect yours. You can leave your stuff here. Everything you need you'll buy in the city. My wife, just like me, is happy to provide you with shelter and will take care of you like a daughter, Vikram said. My parents didn't know if they could trust the person they saw for the second time in their lives, but there was no choice, and I left for Delhi. And this decision changed my life radically. My foster parents gave me more love and attention than I ever saw in my entire life. Vikram's wife allowed me to paint my room any color I wanted and to have a pet mongoose. She and I walked through all the malls in Delhi, and she bought me a lot of cool clothes. I've never seen anyone in my village wear anything like this. Vikram taught me a lot. He was checking my schoolwork and reading smart books to me. He introduced me to his research on the topic of agriculture, which under his guidance I studied with pleasure. But the most interesting thing was happening to me at school. For the first time in my life, no one was afraid of me or called me a cursed girl. Everyone somehow knew about my past life in the village and sympathized with me very much. I made many friends, and my popularity among peers grew more and more. Everything seemed to be some kind of fairy tale, and I was afraid that one day it would all end. Sometimes I even dreamed that I was back in the village and my own brother wanted to kill me. During these nightmares, I screamed in my sleep, and Vikram would run into my room, wake me up, stroke my head, and calm me down. In honor of my 15th birthday, my foster parents threw a party to which they invited all my new friends. But the main surprise was at the end of the celebration, I saw Rajan. My mom and dad, knowing about my carefree and happy life, decided that my brother should graduate in Delhi and live with me for a while, so that, in their opinion, he'd have more opportunities after school and find a good occupation in life. This surprise scared me so much that I ran to my room. I was shaking with fear. After some time, I heard a knock on the door, and Rajan came in. He sat on the edge of my bed and said, "Padma, I know how you feel. And I understand your lack of trust, but I really want us to get to know each other better, to truly become brother and sister. I mean you no harm." Despite the fact that I didn't trust my brother even after these convincing words, I decided to try to communicate with him in a normal way. Gradually, my heart began to thaw. We went to school together, and I introduced him to my friends. He was surprised with how warmly my classmates treated me, and amazed by the teacher's stories about my achievements in the natural sciences. This girl has a great future and grandiose possibilities ahead of her. I have no doubt that after school, she'll be approved for a scholarship and study at the best university. Your family should be proud of her, the principal said, tapping my brother on the shoulder. For Rajan, this was dreamlike news. After all, not everyone in our village had completed a school education, and those who graduated were considered people of science, and studying at the university seemed like something from a different universe. One day, my brother came to me with amazing news. He saved up his pocket money and now bought 2 tickets to the water park. And we've never been there. He also said that we had enough money to spend the night at an expensive hotel. And I was so happy. Together with Vikram's wife, we went to the store and chose a very beautiful swimsuit for me. After I was packing my bag all evening, looking forward to tomorrow. In the morning, I was awakened by loud voices. Vikram and his wife were discussing something very emotionally. When I entered the living room, I saw my bag packed for the trip on the table. It was open, and on top of my things, I saw a bundle of money and my foster mom's gold jewelry. Rajan was standing a little further away. Vikram's wife was at a loss. She really thought that I took the gold and money. Vikram did not believe that such a thing was possible. I cried and ran to my room. A couple of hours later, Vikram came into my room. He said that he had a serious adult talk with Rajan, and he admitted to putting the jewelry in my bag. Now he's already on his way to the village and will never appear here again. Dear girl, don't be afraid. Your vile brother will never set foot in our house again. He tried to scare us with some fairy tale about you being cursed and bringing misfortune, but I know you're our guardian angel. When I finished school, I passed the university entrance exams without much difficulty, and I was approved for a scholarship. I was very horrified when I found out that due to a terrible drought, a terrible famine had hit my village, and people there were on the verge of death. Together with my friends from the university, we collected humanitarian aid and took it to the small motherland. When people from the village saw me as this beautiful girl from the city, they didn't recognize the cursed girl who was blamed for all their misfortune in childhood. We fed the half-starved people dying of hunger and thirst and got to work. First, people watched us with distrust, then with curiosity, and then with admiration. It was hard for them to believe that such miracles were possible. In just a few days, the guys and I built a special crop irrigation system and planted the sprouts we brought from Delhi. The sprouts, nourished with moisture, grew rapidly, and by the end of the summer, we got an excellent harvest, which we gathered together with the villagers. People stopped being afraid of tomorrow and stocked up for several years ahead. By that time, everyone already knew that I was the same cursed girl that they wanted to kill so many years ago and exiled from their village. But no one raised this topic because they were ashamed. People began to call me their guardian angel and told my happy parents that they should be proud of such a child. But most of all, I was surprised by the change in what happened to Rajan. According to Mom and Dad, after Vikram threw him out of his house, Rajan became sad and thoughtful and rethought a lot of his life. During my stay in the village, my brother never spoke to me. But before my return to Delhi, Rajan finally approached me. "Padma, I know that you have every reason not to trust me. I've deceived you so many times, and you have every right to hate me. But I sincerely regret everything and ask your forgiveness for all the harm that I've caused you. I realize how empty and meaningless my life is, and I admire the strength of your spirit. Despite all the hardships, you stayed true to yourself, remained kind and loyal to your dreams. I'll understand if you don't want to see me ever again, but I'd like to start everything over." Rajan barely managed to say, stuttering. "I'm giving you a chance, brother," I answered, and happily hung around his neck.